Welcome back, children. We are continuing the chapter Cell, the basic unit of life. In this part, we are discussing cilia and flagella. Cilia and flagella are fine hair-like structures present in unicellular as well as multicellular organisms, which helps in the locomotion or movement from one place to another. The cilia are small or very fine hair-like structure. Small hair-like structure, whereas flagella are long whiplash-like, very long hair-like structure. Now, cilia can be seen in many organisms such as protozoates, particularly slipper animalcule, that is called paramecium. Paramecium has large number of cilia around the body, which helps in the movement or locomotion, whereas flagella are very long structure which are mainly found in organisms, protozoans such as you can see blast. Then what we can say, Chlamydomonas, Trypanosoma, Euglena. All these types of organisms contain long flagella which helps in the movement of the body. Now we are coming to the internal structure of cilia and flagella. Internally, the cilia and flagella has axoneme. The central core of the cilia and flagella is called axoneme. Axoneme consists of 9 doublet microtubules peripherally connected by a connector called connective tissue. So the doublet fibers, 9 number of doublet fibers are connected peripherally by connective tissue, and this doublet fibers in turn connected to the central microtubule, doublet microtubule, through a connective fiber. So this form 9 peripheral doublet microtubule. At the center there is a single doublet microtubule which connect each other through connective tissue, form the axoneme or central core of the cilia and flagella. Now we are coming to the nucleus. Nucleus is the controlling center of the cell. In a eukaryotic cell, the nucleus is well defined and they consist of 2 membranes. We call nuclear membranes. The nuclear membranes contain a space in between. The 2 membranes of the nuclear membrane contain space in between, that is called perinuclear space, filled with a fluid, perinuclear fluid, and that maintains, the perinuclear fluid maintains the rigidity and the spherical structure of the nucleus. Here we can see a large number of small pores in the nuclear membrane. That pores helps in the movement of the substances into and out of the nucleus. So the nuclear membrane is well defined with a double layer. There is a perinuclear space and filled with a fluid, perinuclear fluid, and there are certain pores through which materials can move in and out of the nucleus. Now, inside the nucleus there is a matrix, fluid matrix, that is called nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm contains enzymes, ribosomes, RNA, mainly a spherical structure called nucleolus. Nucleolus is rich in RNA and protein. Nucleolus is rich in RNA and protein. In addition to this, nucleoplasm contains fine thread-like structure. The thread-like structure we call chromatin. Chromatin was first discovered and named by a scientist called Fleming. Chromatin is visible before the cell division, but once the cell division starts, the chromatin condenses to form chromosomes. Chromatin condenses to form chromosomes. You know, a chromosome in turn contains two components. They are protein as well as DNA. The proteins are of two categories: histone protein and non-histone protein. Histone and non-histone protein. This histone and non-histone protein act as the cementing material which held the DNA strongly or faintly. So DNA is held together by histone as well as non-histone protein. So that form the chromosome. So chromosomes are visible at the time of cell division. That onset of cell division, particularly the metaphase stage, the chromosomes can be easily studied through staining process. Now, the DNA contains genes which are hereditary factors which carry the hereditary information from one generation to another generation. That's how the general structure of the chromosome. So, a chromosome, particularly eukaryotic chromosome, contains two nuclear membrane with a large number of nuclear pores. Then there is a space, very nuclear space filled with a fluid. Now inside the membrane there is nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm contains enzymes, hormones, RNA, particularly a skeletal structure called nucleolus, which in turn contains RNA and proteins. Nucleolus contains RNA and protein. In addition to this, nucleoplasm contains thread-like DNA that is called chromatin. Chromatin is a thread-like structure found only in the non-dividing nucleus. It was named by Fleming. At the onset of this cell division, particularly just after the prophase and beginning of the metaphase, you can see the thread-like chromosome condensed to form chromosomes. Thread-like chromatin condensed to form chromosomes. Chromosome in turn contain proteins and DNA. Proteins are of two categories: histones and non-histones. They act as the cementing material which is there. The DNA intactly, and the DNA in turn contains genes which are the hereditary factors. That's all about this nucleus. Now we are going to the chromosomes. So, when do we observe the chromosome in a cell? Just at the time of onset of cell division. In which stage scientists use the chromosome studies? Scientists use the metaphase stage of the cell division for the study of the chromosome. Now, the chromosomes are basically long thread-like, rod-like structure with a centromere at the center. Centromere is also called kinetochore. Which otherwise were in turn called primary constriction. So primary constriction centromere or kinetochore indicate the central connecting disc of the chromosome. On either sides of this are two arms. The DNA is tightly packed inside the arms. DNA is a double helical structure. You can see the DNA is tightly packed in the cementing material of histone or non-histone proteins. Based on the position of this centromere or primary constriction, there are three. In addition to this, there are four types of chromosomes. You can say metacentric chromosome. In metacentric chromosome, the centromere or the kinetochore is around the center of the chromosome. In submetacentric, In submetacentric, the centromere is to one side. So one of the arm, one of the segment of the chromosome is too long and other is small. In submetacentric. Acrocentric, you can see one of the arm is too long, very long, and the other arm is too short. Whereas telocentric, in a stereocentric chromosome, the centromere is positioned at the tip of the chromosome so that the other arm is invisible or very small. So there are 4 types of chromosomes based on the position of the centromere. Metacentric chromosome, centromere is at the center. Submetacentric chromosome, the centromere is towards the end of the chromosome. Acrocentric chromosome, the centromere is toward the end so that one of the arm is too long and the other arm is too short. In telocentric chromosome, the centromere is at the tip of the chromosome, so only one arm is visible and the other arm is non-visible. In certain chromosomes, we can see there is one more constriction. This constriction is called secondary constriction. Secondary constriction. The secondary constriction bear a very small crown-like DNA segment which is called satellite DNA. Satellite DNA. This satellite DNA is unique for a person and this is not found in all chromosomes. Certain chromosomes only contain satellite DNA and this satellite segment contain unique DNA we call what we call repetitive unit of DNA that is unique for a person, and repetitive DNA is very important for determining the DNA fingerprinting for a particular person. So these constitute around less than 0.1%. Satellite DNA constitute less than 1.1%. That is unique for a person. It is the basis of DNA fingerprinting, or DNA fingerprinting is determined based on the repetitive DNA sequence present in the satellite chromosome. That's all from this chapter. Thank you.